This conference will now be recorded.
So Ansible cluster setup was done yesterday. And we have seen some ad hoc commands and also playbooks. And we are writing some playbooks for the purpose of copying files, not copying files, only for creating files and directories, and also for deleting them. So let's try it today. We just try to create some copy files first. Okay. And once we copy them, for those files, we add some content to the files. So yesterday we have just created files. But what if I want to add some content to the files? And also we copy the files. Then we talk about fetch. So what is copying and what is fetch? So copying files is nothing but copy files from server to the host. Whereas fetching is from I want to do a reverse copy. Reverse copy means I want to copy the files from host to the server. Okay, that is what is fetch. So let's talk about copy first, and in the meanwhile we talk about variables. Okay, so these are different topics we'll be covering today. And first, so where are the which one it is? And server. Just log into the server first. Just copy the. It's not copying. I think we better copy from here. Just scroll down. Copy. Is it the right instance? 1 second. Yeah, that's right instance. That's my server IP address. And go with the host. And then, so that's a host IP address. So log into the server first. That's our server. switch user, super user. And so where are the playbooks? Ansible. There you have playbooks. So let's check it out first. So what is whether my host is reachable or not. So how do you check the connection between Ansible server and the host? Ansible. Sorry. How do you check the connectivity? Ping connection, right? So what is the module? Ping module and then host IP. And how do you set up this node? So node has to be first SSH key copied of your server to the host, and secondly the IP address has to be on the inventory file. So where is the inventory file? In EDC, Ansible, and there is your inventory file, host file, and here we just enter the IP address, and that's IP address. Okay. So let's write a playbook here, and the playbook is, let's say, copy files. Let's say I want to copy files dot yeah. And how do you start the syntax? So 3 hyphens and then hyphen and then host and then host IP, and just go with the host IP, and then the user and the task. So name of the task, let's say copy file, so from server, and then module is copy module. So for copying, there's a different module called copy module. Okay. So whenever you copy files, in usually, like say I'm copying some files using some Linux commands. So what is the syntax? Copy, right? Source and then destination, right? The same thing. Source. So what file you want to copy? I want to copy a file from files directory. I want to copy a file called something like server file 1 dot so txt. Okay. So what is a files directory? We'll talk about it. But on the destination, so on destination, and then we talk about so root test, and here copy the same file, something like server file 1 dot txt. Okay. So we have something called files. So what is that files? Files is the directory where we maintain all the files which we copy from server to the host. Okay. Now this file, server file 1, I'm going to create that on files directory. So save it. And here I'm going to make a directory. What's the directory name is? Files. So this directory maintains all the files. So what is the file we are copying? Let's say touch server file 1 dot txt. Now the file is created, and then so run the playbook now. So what is the playbook name, or what is the syntax to run a playbook? Ansible hyphen playbook, and then playbook name is copy files dot yeah. So the file is copied. You see the change is true, so it has been changed. That means file is copied. So can I copy files from other than files directory? So here, where are the files I'm copying from? I'm copying it from files directory. Can I copy from some other path? Yes, you can copy from any path. Okay. So let's say I want to copy somewhere from here. I have some directory 1, and there I want to copy files. Yes, you can do it. But mention the absolute path. So make sure you mention the absolute path. Okay. So Okay, so let's write another playbook, but in that playbook, I just say, I name it something like this, vas.yaml. So the purpose of this playbook is same purpose, which is copy files, host, and then host IP address, and then comes the user, and then the task. So here again, same thing. Name is copy file. Then what is the module type? Copy module type. And then you mention source and also destination. But what if I don't mention the source? I mention only destination. I don't have any source. I'm going with only so destination. Okay. So let's say destination, and the destination is somewhere in root, and then let's say server file 2.txt some. There is no source, only destination. Then what will be the result? Creates file. Yes, it is going to create a file. Okay, so it is going to create a file, and same time I want to add some content to the file. So we are copying files, nothing but in this example, even though we are using copy module, but the file will be created. Why the file will be created? There is no src attribute, there is no source attribute, there is only destination attribute. Since there is only destination, the file will be created, and same time I want to add some content to the file. So since you want to add content to the file, what is the attribute name is? Content is the attribute name. Now, so what content I want to add it? You can mention some content. Let's say something like hello from so Ansible server. That's the content. It has to be in single quotations, and then so make sure we mention the host IP. Okay, and then save it. So run it, Ansible hyphen playbook, and the playbook name is vas, right? Let's do it. Now the content is added. Let's do one thing. Let's log into the host, and let me show you that. Copy. What is a key? This is a key. So where we have copied the file to in test, there is your server file 2. Is the content added? The content is added. Hello from Ansible server. So let's open the same file. Same file. Now this time I want to create multiple files. So not just one file, I want to create multiple files. So let's write another task. So name of the task. So let's say create, let's say file 3 or file 2, whatever. Okay. So file 2, and then copy module still, and then destination, and there you have path, and then let's say server file 3.txt, and the content. So, but the content is, it's the same content I will be using for this file. same content. So I'm using the same content for both files. Okay. So if you run it again, the result, we know the result, Ansible icon playbook and the playbook name. So what is that? Content is required. Okay, I think we done a small mistake there. What is that? So the content. Okay. So there is a typo. Content. So go with the content. So that was a message. Content is required. Okay. So same execution. So the first task was the status was okay, but the second task status is changed because since the first file was already created. Okay, so modify the same playbook. Now I want to change the content of these two files. So how many places you do? You go to file 2, change the content, go to file 3, and then change the content. Right? So let's say I'm using the same content for about 10 files. I want to modify the content then. How are you going to modify the content? Are you going to modify the content for 10 different files? Is it possible? You can, it is possible, but I want to make it simplified. So what is that? So I want to create a file, I want to create files. So we'll be creating files, but the concept is for all the files, we are using the same content. And whenever I modify the I want to modify the content, I'm going to modify the content for all the 10 files. But instead of modifying the content for all 10 files, I want to modify content only once. That content should be reflected for rest of the files. Okay. So what is the concept? Concept is variables. So in general terms, what is the purpose of variables? So why we need a variable? You define it once and then you can use it number of times. Okay, that's the concept. For example, let's say variable, okay, so variable x is equals to something like 10. Okay. And then, so whenever you want to use the variable, you can use that print x, you can just go with print x. So what will be printed? 10 will be printed 2 times, right? But I want to print 20, then you just go with change the value of the variable. When we change the value of the variable, then the new value will be reflected in these two. The same concept. So now I'm going to make this content as my variable. So whenever I change the variable value, that variable value will be reflecting in the place of content for these files. So now let's introduce the concept called variables concept. You understand the purpose now? Why we need variables? So let's see the syntax, how to define a variable. After the user, then we have VAS, variables. How to define a variable? The variable name can be anything. You can give any name to the variable. So the variable name is, let's give something like welcome underscore message. That's my variable name. And the value of the variable, so let's say, so hello from variable. So how to define a variable? VARs, variable name, and then colon, the value of the variable. This is the syntax. Okay. So let's call the variable. Where I'm going to call the variable, in the place of content. So for these two files, I'm going to call variable. What is it? How do you call it? Now, so the syntax to call a variable, double quotations, sorry, double quotations, and then double curly braces. Then you have variable name. So welcome underscore message. Okay. So that is how you call a variable. So first you define a variable like this, and then whenever you call a variable, the variable name is mean content is equals to within the double quotations and then double curly braces, you give your variable name. Okay. So also we have another. Okay, there it is. And here you go with double curly braces and the variable name. What is that? Welcome underscore search. Okay. So save it. Is the syntax clear? How to call it? How to define it? So Ansible hyphen playbook and the playbook name. So the content has been modified for both files. If you want, you can check your files. So also check the file for file 2. So it's same content. What is that? For file 1, I think I have, it's a different file, is it? Server file 1. Why this is not reflected for file 1? Okay, once let me check that. So it says it is changed, right? Let me see. So it is file 2, file 3. Okay, the file names were wrong. So file 2, okay, that's fine. And then we also have another file. What is that? File 3. So file 3. So hello from variables. Hello from variables. So do you use the variables only for the content purpose or some other purpose? We can use the variables for any purpose. So in this example, how many files I'm creating? 2 files, right? I'm creating about number of files. Can I use variables? Yes? Anyone? What is the syntax? So how to define a variable? Tell me only that. Variables and then variable name. So give some variable name. My variable name is, let's say, create file is a variable name. Okay, that's my variable name. So what are the values? And so that I'm going to call this under the task and then name of the task and then go with so copy and then source. Tell me how to define my variable now. I want to create, let's say, 2 files. Let's take 2 files. I want to create file 1 and then file 2. How to define that? Okay, or else, so if you don't have a variable, file 1 and then also file 2, you write 2 different tasks. First is for file 1, second one is for file 2. File 2. Okay. Now, so I don't want to write too many number of tasks. What is the concept of variables? So it reduces your lines of code. So if you are repeating something, I want to make it simplified. I want to reduce the lines of code. Now, tell me how to do it. So what is my variable name is? Create file is a variable name. For that, I'm going to provide now multiple values. In the previous example, how many values does it have? It has only one value. But now my variable will be having multiple values. Can we have multiple values for the variable? Yes, we can have multiple values for the variable. So how to do that? What is the syntax? In the next line, hyphen, and then what is that? File 1, and then test, and then file 2. Now, where do we call it? In SRC? Yes. double quotations and double braces, curly braces, and the variable name was create file. And as usual, if you want to have another variable for the content, you can also have another variable for the content. So that's your so what is that? Let's say give some name, which is content variable, but make sure we define the content variable. So what is other variable? Which is content variable. And then now, if you want to provide only one value, you can provide one value. So let's say something. Okay. So for both parameters, SRC parameter, content parameter, both has variables values assigned. So this also is variable. This is also a variable. Okay. So that is your first scenario for today. You just try that. Okay. So create files, create multiple files, create multiple files. So using variables. Even I have given you the syntax. You just try the syntax. Okay. Right. That's your first scenario. So in this example, so what is the parent directory for both files? What is the parent directory? Test. So can I change that? I want to create file 1 under test1 directory, file 2 under test2 directory. Is it possible? Yeah, why not? It's possible. See, only the values are changed. So the values are changed. You can change the values. Okay. So that's what you're going to try. So in the first example, so same parent directory for both files. For multiple files, same parent directory. Okay. And your second scenario is, so repeat above scenario for different parent directories. That means the values are changed. Okay, the parent directory values are changed. Well, now yesterday we have created some files, right? Right. So using file as a module type. Do you remember those examples? So what are they? Create files or create directories. I think this is so here I was deleting it, but what if you want to create them? What is the status? Absent. Absent means deleting, right? If I want to create them, create a file, status touch, and status. Can I use variables? Same concept again. Understand? See, only thing is the variable is changed. So in the module type copy module, the variable name was I given some variable name, but for what attribute? The attribute was SRC was attribute, but here what is attribute is for this attribute. Only that is changed. Okay. So now I'm going to give you the syntax, but you try that. Okay. So let's say it's the same syntax. There is no change in the syntax. Create file is my module, but it has to be in the variables. So that's variable, and then make sure you just mention the something like file1, whatever it is. Then next is for test, and then file2. And then so this one is, what is that? Double quotations, and then so go with double curly braces. Just make your variable name create underscore file. Now we are creating both files, which is file1, file2, and in the second one, in the second task, I want to delete them. Okay, I want to delete both files. I'm creating them as well as I'm deleting them. Again, using variables. So how do we do that? Double quotations and double curly braces. And what is that? So create underscore file. So does it make any difference if the variable is something like this? See, that is just a variable name. Okay, you can use the same variable name for creating files. So this is your another scenario. You create files, and same time in the next task you delete the files, create them and then delete them. Okay, so try that, and that's your one more scenario. So create files, using variables in file module, create as well as delete. Okay. So this is regarding your file creation and file deletion and file copying them and adding content to the files. But I want to get the files from host to the server. So far we have seen copying the files from the server to the host. I want to get the files from the host to the server. So what is the module type? Fetch is the module type. So go with, so fetch files dot YAML. So host IP, so host IP, then the user and the task. So name is fetch file from host, and then what is the module? Fetch module. So tell me the attributes, the parameters. Sorry. So is it like copying or not? So we are copying. So in the previous example, I have copied files from server to the host. Now we are copying files from host to the server. What are the parameters? Source and then destination. But what's the difference? In this case, what will be the source? What will be the destination? Yes, source is the path of your host. Destination is the path on your server. Just take some files. So let's take something like file2. But what is the directory? In root test, then we have file2. So that is nothing but our source. Root test and then file2. And how about destination? So let's say I'm going to copy to some directory in root. But do we have the directory, capital directory on my server? No, we don't have it. So you can check that. Under root, we don't have the capital directory. So do I need to create the directory? That's not required to create the directory. So you can simply run the playbook, Ansible icon playbook, and the playbook name was fetch files.yaml. So the file has been fetched. So it is success. That means in root directory, it also created its destination directory. What is the directory name? Capital. That's created. There is a directory created, and then open the directory. What else we see in here? So we see the IP address. So open the IP address. What is that IP address? Host IP address. That's my host IP address. And open the host IP address. Then you have the parent directory and plus the file. So why that is an IP address? Why there is an IP address? Correct. So see, whenever you fetch your files, you might be fetching your files from different hosts, right? In this case, how do I know from what host I have fetched my files? Okay, let's try that now. Back to the etc and then Ansible and then sample tables. I just open my, okay, so I want to fetch same file from another host. So in the host, this is my first IP address. Then I mentioned the second IP address, but the second IP address, I take the private IP address of the host, the private IP. Okay, so let's run it. Ansible -playbook and the playbook name. So yeah, we fetch files from both hosts. Then so check your capital directory. Now I can see for what host. So we have copied the files from what host. This is my first host, and then you have test directory, you have file 1, file 2, and same way. So if you see that other directory, which is host 2 directory, then also you have so file directory and then file both. So that is why when you fetch it, then you can see your different IPs, but your different IP addresses for different host. Right. So this is correct, but what if I am fetching my files from different hosts but different files? So in this example, the same file exists on both hosts, right? Same file exists on both hosts. But what if I want to fetch a file from file 1 from host 1, file 2 from host 2? How to do it? Is the point clear? Understand it? So, any idea? So let's try that. Okay. So here I'm going to show you a different concept called multi-play concept. Let's talk about that. This concept is important, and we use this concept even in the future. Multi-play. So what is a multi-play? So why we need multi-play? So this is the best example. Now, let's say I'm going to write another task, and the task is name. So fetch. Here I would say file 2 from host 1, let's say, and then the second task is fetch file 3 something, whatever, and from host 2. And then what is module? Fetch is a module as usual. There is no change. So src, but let's say here, what is the path in root test directory, and one second, I would set this is as file 3. Okay, but let me create file 3 on the host for easy purpose. I'm creating some file 3. This is my host. I'm creating a file, which is file 3. Okay, and then, and what is the path? What is the destination is? Go with the destination, something like this. That's my destination. Or else you can take a different destination. Let's say info. Sorry, I forgot to mention the full path. Which file? File 3. So if I run this, so your playbook is going to fetch both files from same host. What is my host is? This is my host. But I want to fetch files from, so I want to fetch this file from one host. I want to fetch this file from another host. So how is that possible? So am I going to mention again another host IP address over here? No. If you do it, both files will be fetched from the both host. I don't want it. So now, so let's talk about a multiplay concept. So what is a multiplay? So in my playbook, I have two different tasks or two different plays. Okay, we'll talk about it. So I want to run one of the tasks on one host and second task on another host. So how this can be controlled with the help of multiplay concept. So what is the concept then? The first task, I'm going to run it on this host, and the second task I will be running on another host. How to do it? Host, and then you can take a host IP address, just whatever the host IP address. So take host IP, I take the private IP. That's IP address. And as usual, so this is a normal playbook. Like how do you write it? The same. And then go with. So why we call it multi-play? So what is a play? What's the difference between playbooks versus play? Where? Yeah, where we are running a playbook. So this is my playbook. So where we are running it? On host. That is what is a play. Play is nothing but your host. But do we have multiple hosts here? That is what we call multi-play. We are running it on different plays, different hosts. That's what we call multi-play concept. Okay. So save it. Sorry, which? Oh, sorry. Okay, let's try again. 1 second. Let's do one thing. So I want to destination, change the destination as well, so that we can see clearly something like this. Okay, let's try this. I've changed the destination. So Ansible icon playbook and then playbook name. Yes. So the first one is, you say that this is my play one. So we are running, we are playing on so and so host. Secondly, we are playing on another host. That's my second host. That's why you see that play one, and also we have play two, which is what is the multi-play concept. Okay, and then so second, this is your fetching file 3 and fetching file 1. Some file. So what are the directories in root? So which is info directory. So go to info, and there you have, so this IP address and how many files this has fetched. File 3. Okay, and you just check it again, and other directory. What is other directory? Solve, right? So this is our other directory. Then you have IP address and the parent directory, and then you have file. So this is why it was creating with different names and different IPs. So it is creating it is creating the folders with different IPs with their IP address. Now we can identify. So what playbook is this playbook is fetching files from so and so IP address. You can see the host IP address. Okay. So back to where are the playbooks, etc. And then answer. There you have some. Now, can I try with? I want to fetch multiple files. Okay. So from this host, this is my host. I want to fetch multiple files from the same host. How to do it? Let's say I have file 2, right? I want to fetch file 2, file 3, file 4, file 5. Some. How do I fetch number of files? Variables. Yes. So variables, that's what I said. Variables, use it like everywhere. Because without variables, it's not possible to write your playbook at all. Right? That is the importance of variables. So go with variables. And then, so variables, and then variable name. Let's say fetch file is my variable name, and you can provide the values. So the value is test, and then file 2. I want to make it as an variable. What happened? 1 second. Just frozen. Yeah, got it. So what is the syntax? Double quotations and double curly braces, and then variable name. Fetch underscore file. Just a second. This is not. Yeah. I have. So how many values I have given for my variable? Only one value. So, but from your side, you make sure you mention the multiple values. So just save it. Sorry. Any issues? Which one? Fetch file. Double quotations. So yeah, got it. So what is that? Line 8 appending. Line appears to be, what is that? So fetch file from host 1. So there is some syntax error, it says. So what is error? There is some syntax error. Okay. So what is the syntax error? Now, see, there are some of the modules. So in those modules, when I'm trying to use the variables, so it says there is a syntax error. So this is not allowed. Sorry. Anything? Any issues? Space where? Where is the space? So let me just 1 second. Okay. Let's try this. Okay. So let's try this. Ansible-playbook. and then playbook name. Did it work? No. Why? Any syntax errors? What is syntax error? Where? Where? So variables must be declared at global level, not within the task. So variables always needs to be defined at global level. What do you mean by global level? That's after the user, not within the task. But is there any concept called, can we define the variables within the task? There is a concept. That is also possible. But if you want to define the variables within the task, we don't call them variables. So we call them with items. Sorry, with items. So you can define variables at two levels. One is at global level. Global level means after the user, before the task, you can say. Okay, go with variables, and then so your variable name, and then what is, you just provide the value test, and then so file 2. So this is the actual syntax, defining variables at global level. But so can we define the variables at task level? That is possible. That is what we call with items. Okay, we'll talk about the with items in the future. But so this is not allowed. Variables always has to be at global level. So if you want to define the variables at task, that's possible. Okay, right. So Ansible icon playbook, and then your playbook name. Invalid types supplied for source must be a string. Okay, what is that? So message source must be a string. What is that? Source must be a string. It says source must be a string. So is it a string value? Is it a string value? So this is actually source, right? You have been going with the source. The source is has to be a value, not a string value. What's the difference between string and the normal value? String is considered as like a text value. Same thing will be printed as it is. When you talk about a value, and then so the value is nothing but it takes the whatever value is assigned to it, it reads the value of that parameter. That's the value. So this is not possible in fetch. Are you clear? So in these examples, now we can still use with items. So there are some limitations for the variables. So some of the modules you cannot use a variables concept. They don't allow these variables like fetch. I'm trying to do it, but it is saying that it allows only the string value. Okay. So then the solution is, what is the solution is with items. Okay. So let me give you, okay, or else we can, yeah, let's try that since we are in here. Let me take you that concept. Now I remove that. But I will be covering this with items even in the future. But so let's remove the variables. So I'm going to replace the variables with items. How do you do that? Now you see that within the task, I'm in the task. What is my task name is fetch files. Within the task, I'm defining with items. With underscore items. And then the item name. What is that? What is that? File 1, file 2, give some name. So why we call it as an with item? Why don't we call it variables? See, the name itself says this is with items, means these items can be used within the task. I cannot use these variables or these items in another task. For example, I have another task. Let's say I have one more task. So I have second task. I have my second task. Within the second task, can I call this item? No, because that item can be used only that item or that task. That's why we call it with items, with task. Okay, so that is not possible. But anyway, so once you define it, how do you call the item? So here, the same kind of syntax, but it is item. So what is that? It is item. So why? See, with items has no variable names. For the variables, how do we define a variable? Variables and the variable name. But here we have no variable names. So we have only item values. Right? This is what I said. So in this item, we have only values. There are no names. But whereas variables, variable name plus variable value. That's why your fetch module was not allowing us to do it. Okay, so let's try this now. Ansible and then playbook name. So this time it is success. So you understand the difference between items versus variables. So variables are defined at global level, and those variables you can call it in multiple tasks. But whereas items are defined at task level, and those are only task specific. You cannot call the items outside of the task. That's not possible. Okay, and so for the task which I have given, for these tasks, you just try that. Okay, so for all these three tasks, you try the variables concept first. And in any cases, if you get a message, error message called this kind of error message is invalid type of supplied host. It must be a string. Wherever you get this kind of errors, and you start using items. Okay, so is it clear? So we use the variables, we use with underscore data items, so we use it like multiple times, but the basic difference is, that's a basic difference, global and then. So what are the global variables? Are global, with items are task only within the task. And some of the modules like fetch module, so they don't allow your variables concept, they allow only items. Right, and just try this. So whether you get any syntax errors, those kind of string value, whether you get those errors or not, irrespective of it, so try above scenarios. So with underscore items. Okay, so far we have been dealing with file system related, right? So what are the file system means? We are fetching files and we are copying the files, we are using variables, also we are using so with items. Can I use these concepts for other type of, apart from file system related, can we go with other type of modules? Now, so let's go with writing and another playbook regarding install package. I'm going to install a package called HTTPD package. Right? Let's install this package. I think we all know what is HTTPD package. What is the purpose of this package? What's the purpose? It's a web service, right? So like I have given you an example in the last session of AWS. So when I was trying to access that web page, like inbox page and outbox page, so you must have HTTPD package installed and service has to be running. Okay. Now installing that package, then so go with host first, and then go with the user, and then the task. So task is install Apache 2. What is Apache 2? Nothing but HTTPD. So on RHEL and then CentOS, the package name is HTTPD, whereas on Ubuntu it is Apache 2. So the package name differs. Since our OS is, host OS I'm talking about, or since our host OS is Ubuntu, the package name is Apache 2. And then, so what is the module then? Package is a module, and then name of the package Apache 2, and then state is present. Okay, so in the past they used to have state is installed, but that has been deprecated, so that is no more available. So that is present. Okay, you can still use install, but that is deprecated. So in very soon, I think they're going to remove that status, install status. We use only present now. But what is a host? Let's go with running on this host, but I want to run it on number of hosts, not 2 hosts, not 3 hosts. I want to have about, let's say, so number of hosts, or else I have a total environment. I have a dev environment, I have test environment. I want to install this package on about number of hosts. How do I mention this? You mention your environment name. Okay, but how Ansible understand that environment name, or how Ansible knows, so how many nodes are there in that particular environment? So save it first. Now we go with our host file. Yes, in host file, let's define our groups. You can call them groups, labels, or environments. Let's define them. So how to define that? So very simple. In square braces, you define your environment name or your group name. And then how many nodes are added to this? 2 nodes. For example, I have one more environment. Let's say something like test. And you can add these nodes. I have some nodes like something like this. That's my host IP address. So you can create your groups, you can create your environments, right? And so for example, let's say at the end of the page, I have given one more IP address. Okay, this IP address. Now this IP address, so will it be considered as part of test? Will it won't be considered. So that is still considered as your test environment. That is still considered as your test environment. So the reason is you already have started creating one environment. So whatever IP address you mention below that, all those IPs are mentioned as in those instances belongs to that environment. Okay. So that's why Whenever you don't need them, you just don't mention it. If you mention it, that will be considered as part of the group or part of the environment. So or else we can mention something else. Let's say you can go with some other, let's say others. Go with others, and then so you start enter the IP address there. No, sorry. Okay, right. So, and what is our group name? What is environment name is dev environment. Let's say now back to the sample playbooks, and then which one it is? Install stdpd, right? Ansible icon playbook, and then playbook name. So there is some error. So what is the error? Install Apache to stdpd is failed. Why that is failed? Let's see. Let's wait for it. So what happened was, so it was success on one host. On other host, it was a failure. That's a private IP. Yes, that's a private IP. So the reason is, see, on the same host, same time, you're installing the same package. So that's why it's a failure. Okay. So let's anyway, but you understand this message. So did we able, are we able to install it? Able to install it. So then you can go with, let's say, service. What is the service name? It's not HTTP, it is Apache 2. This is Ubuntu, right? So check the status. Is running. Okay. You don't need to install that manually. So you can just do it straight away through the Ansible playbook. Okay. Now, but in some cases, and some of the packages, especially like Red Hat, when you install packages and the status of those packages or services are inactive status. So on Ubuntu, when you install a package, the status is active status, it's in running status. But whereas in Ubuntu, sorry, in Red Hat, when you install the packages, the package status is inactive status. But as soon as I install a package, I want to start that service. Otherwise, it does not make any sense. Why are you installing a package? To have your service running. Okay. So I want to make sure about that. Install HTTPD, and then so the first task is regarding installing HTTPD. Second task is start Apache 2 service. So first task is regarding installing. Second task is regarding service start. So what is the module type? Service is a module type. Like for package, package was a module type, and for service, service is a module type. And then name of the service is Apache 2, and then state is started. It's not running, it is started. Okay. So let's do one thing. Let's remove this IP address. I don't want these errors every time. Go with the host. So which one? That's the one, right? So instead of removing it, I'm going to comment it. So let's say comment. And how to comment it? Can use hashtag. Just use hashtag. Back to the playbooks. Now, Ansible icon playbook, and then your playbook name. So install package, it was already there, and service is also is running state. But if you want to remove the packages, how to remove packages? What is the status is? Absent. So absent, you can try that. But what if you want to update my packages? For update, it is update. No, it's not update. It is latest, and then I want to update it, and then I go with restarted. I'm doing some upgradations of the packages, and then after that I'm restarting my services. Okay. So anyway, it was up to date. So why it was up to date? We just have installed the package. Okay, that's why it's up to date, and the service has been restarted. You can see the status is restarted. So this package, Apache 2 package, is available in your app repositories. What is app repository? In Red Hat, we have yum repositories, right? So, but in this Ubuntu, we call it app repositories, APT. Now, for example, I'm installing some package. So, what package? Let's say some chef package. But that package is not provided by the repository. Will it be success? Like you remember in Linux sessions, so I was installing that chef package using yum install chef. So what was the error? Package not found. So the same error you're going to get it. But if the packages are not provided by the repositories, how I will be installing those packages? Using the URL. But so we download the package and then we install it. But so these package modules, they don't have any parameter called URL parameter. They don't have it. And how you're going to download it? So I take the concept in the future, not now. But anyway, for time being, you just understand regarding package management and service management. Okay. So you try to install packages and then delete packages, update packages. And again, the same thing. You try for multiple packages. Try this. You can try for multiple packages. So variables, let's say my variable name. And then you can start defining your packages, Apache 2, and go with more packages. Try the packages like Git package and try with even, so this is a package. So VSF TPD is for package for file transfer protocol, and also try some other packages like OpenSSH. I think you know what is SSH is for. What is the purpose of SSH? For remote connections. If you want to do the remote connections, you must have the package installed. What is the package is? OpenSSH-sepper. That's a package name. Okay. So try to install these packages, and then what is that? So what is the variable name? Name, multiple packages. The package name, sorry, the variable name. So and then state is, let's say, install or present domain. So present. So managing multiple packets, and then services. Now, are the service names, package names always same? The service names, for example, in this example, what is the package name is? Apache 2. Service name is also Apache 2. So when you go with VSF-TPD, service name, package name, both are same. But when you go to OpenSSH server, so that's a package name. But what is the service name? SSHD is the service name. Okay. So try to manage these services as well. And then here you go with creating another variable. And then variable name is multiple underscore services. Apache 2. And then so go with so git. I think this is VSF TPD, I think so. Try that. That is correct, yeah. And then it is SSHD. And then in the place of services, you go with the services. The name of the service is multiple underscore services. And state is restarted. Okay. And these variables perfectly works for packages, services. This is not like item. You don't need items over here. Okay. For files, file module and fetch modules, they don't accept those variables, but here packages, services, they do accept the variables. Okay. So do some hands-on with all these things, and when we come back tomorrow, so with the modules, whatever we have practiced today, we're going to take a scenario tomorrow, and then we'll see how we can implement the scenario by based upon all the modules we have practiced today. So you have a lot of things to practice for today. So try with packages and then variables. Try all of them. Okay. And use variables for everywhere. For every module, you use variables. Okay. Right. Yeah. So questions? No questions? Yeah. Yeah. So that's why we call it only item. So you cannot have multiple items. That's only say. You just go back. Which one? What was the file we have defined? This one, right? Okay. So this is not possible to define. That is, a keyword itself is with underscore items is a keyword. There you define the items. When you call the item, all the items will be called. But if I want to call a particular item from the list of items, there is a different syntax. Okay, I'll explain that syntax in user modules. Okay, so you can use dot. There is a concept called dot concept. By using that, you can use that multiple. When you can call whatever the attribute you want to call it, you can call that. That is possible. But here it is not possible. So the concept is different. Okay, you can use item dot item name. Item dot item name. That is possible. Okay. Yeah. Any more questions? So I have not given the whole idea about this. I just only have given the basic syntax. Items, I will be covering that again in the future. Okay. Any more questions? And so for don't this one also multiply concept. Forgot that multiply. So how many of you set up the cluster? Ansible cluster? Only one. Okay. So if you're not able to set up the Ansible, how are you going to set up the Docker clusters, Kubernetes clusters? Right. So don't neglect the practice. Thank you.